The DDR5 nightmare hasn't eased yet, but today we're checking out an option that might be viable for anyone needing to get their hands on some. As I'm sure you're all painfully aware at this point, the cost to purchase DRAM shot up rapidly late last year, and this really impacted consumer-grade DDR5 memory, tripling the price in just a few short months. Now, triggering this rapid increase in price was OpenAI, who in all of their infinite AI-powered wisdom struck deals with Samsung and SK Hynix to buy out a significant portion of their capacity to produce HBM or high bandwidth memory. And as a result, Samsung and SK Hynix converted all of their production lines away from the sort of standard PC/smartphone type memory to focus on HBM and server grade memory. Having seen OpenAI make this move, the other big players such as Google and Meta, for example, they didn't want to risk missing out, so they too struck deals with Samsung, SK Hynix and Micron to buy up the remaining capacity. And it really was the remaining capacity. There are only a handful of companies in the world that make DRAM, and as it stands, just 3 of them account for the vast majority of the world's supply. And those 3 companies are, of course, SK Hynix at around 34%, Samsung at 33%, and then we have Micron with around 26%, meaning the rest of the market is made up by smaller players fighting over the remaining 7%. So, with the big 3 memory suppliers fully locked in on producing HBM memory to fuel the AI race, with the incentive of much higher margins, supply of products like DDR5 memory basically stopped overnight. As a result, the memory that we're using, for example, to test AMD Zen 5 processors, so G-Skill's Trident Z Neo 5 DDR5 6000CL30 32GB kit, while it cost $115 US back in October of last year, and because of its price to performance was widely regarded as sweet spot memory, today that same kit now costs $490 US. That's a 4.3 times price increase in just 3 months. This has left many of you looking at building a new gaming PC to consider DDR4 options, either with AMD's older AM4 platform or Intel's LGA 1700 platform, which can also use DDR4 memory. But unfortunately, it didn't take too long to realize that DDR4 production had also been phased out, which drove up prices for budget PCs and older systems, making it no longer a viable option. Which is really bad news, but you know what's not bad news? Today's sponsor spot is brought to you by Gigabyte and their Aorus Radeon RX 9070 XT Elite, one of the most feature-packed 9070 XTs on the market, and arguably the best looking, thanks to the RGB halo design, a triple ring lighting effect that provides unique visuals. But the Aorus Elite isn't just a flashy looking graphics card, it packs a massive vapor chamber cooler that allows it to sustain the highest core clocks of any 9070 XT that we've tested, and we've tested pretty much all of them. This resulted in some of the best out-of-the-box performance, and combine that with the strong feature set, which includes dual BIOS support, massive aluminium backplate with pass-through area, dual HDMI outputs, ARGB lighting, a GPU support that includes a wide range of adjustment, and you have a real winner. Which is why we recommend checking out Gigabyte's Aorus Radeon RX 9070 XT Elite via the link in the video description. Okay, so PC gamers in need of a new PC or an upgrade are kind of screwed. You either bite the bullet and pay over 4 times more than you were just a few months ago for DDR5 memory, or you don't upgrade at all. Those are basically the options, at least for now. I say for now because there is another DRAM maker which is currently part of the 7% minority called CXMT, a Chinese-based company fighting hard to become a relevant player. Initially, we saw headlines claiming that CXMT was selling DRAM at $138, at a time when the average price of DRAM was more in the $300 to $400 range, prompting me to source a memory kit using CXMT ICs. This was a few weeks ago now though, and at the time, memory module maker Kingbank was offering the cheapest 32GB DDR5 kits here in Australia, and they just so happened to use CXMT's ICs. The kit in question was the Kingbank KFRW DDR5 6000CL36 32GB kit, and my primary reason for acquiring this Chinese-based memory was to see how it compares to our G-Skill kit using ICs from SK Hynix. Now, admittedly, KFRW, it's not the most catchy name, and I've been told this kit is exclusive to Australia, or at least this specific version of this kit. It's based on the Sawblade series, which KingBank sells more broadly, and the only real difference here with the memory we have is the heatsink design. So I guess you could say I have the Aussie Sawblade. Anyway, I was pretty excited to be getting this memory because it's not only my first time testing memory using Chinese DRAM, but it's also DRAM from a maker that's not locked into an AI contract. Of course, CXMT was never going to solve all of our memory-related woes, given the company accounts for just 5% of the global DRAM market share. But recent developments could open the door for China's CXMT to close the gap on the big three, reducing consumer reliance on Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron, companies who currently don't want to sell us memory. So, as CXMT looks to expand production, I want to know, is their memory actually any good? And to find out if memory modules using CXMT memory are any good, I've paired the Aussie Sawblade with the Ryzen 7 9800X 3D and Ryzen 7 9700X processors, and I'll be comparing the results with G-Skill's super premium DDR5 6000 CL26 memory, along with some entry-level Kingston DDR5 5200 memory. So with that, let's go over the data. Now, one of the benefits of AMD's 3D V-Cache technology is that it's not at all reliant on memory performance. So you can really pair any DDR5 memory with these CPUs and get a similar level of performance. And that being the case, these X3D CPUs aren't ideal for testing memory performance, which is why I'm also including the 9700X. But at least this proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that pairing KingBank's CXMT-based memory with an X3D processor will deliver optimal results. And in this example, we are testing at extremely high frame rates in Rainbow Six Siege, and the KingBank memory is able to deliver the same level of performance as G-Skill's ultra-premium low-latency DDR5. But then, the same is also true of Kingston's entry-level kit. And even when using the 9700X, we're still seeing a very similar story in Rainbow Six Siege. The Kingston memory drops a few frames, but outside of that, memory performance isn't limiting the 9700X in this title. Looking at frame rates in Marvel Rivals, we again find excellent performance from the KingBank memory, matching the premium G-Skill kit. Even the Kingston memory performed well, only reducing 1% lows at 1080p. Again, we find even with the Ryzen 7 9700X that the KingBank memory enables maximum performance, matching the G-Skill memory at all three tester resolutions, making it around 10% faster than the entry-level Kingston kit. We're also seeing much the same in Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered. Here the 9800X 3D drops a few frames when using the KingBank memory, while the Kingston kit is up to 7% slower. The KingBank and G-Skill kits also deliver comparable performance with the 9700X. We're looking at less than a 2% performance deviation here. And again, the Kingston kit was around 8 to 10% slower, so not a massive drop-off given that we are at DDR5 5200 CL40. Finally, we have Cyberpunk 2077, and here the performance is again almost identical when comparing DDR5 5200 to DDR5 6000, while the KingBank memory basically matched the G-Skill kit with identical performance. Even with the 9700X, the KingBank memory was also able to match G-Skill's best, making it up to 17% faster than entry-level DDR5. So there you have it, KingBank's CXMT-based memory. It might not have the best specs on the market, but when it comes to gaming performance, it's certainly right up there, and in this economy, that is more than good enough. Now, unfortunately, although it did appear CXMT was initially being very aggressive on pricing, that has all changed in the last few weeks, and now they're operating more like a typical for-profit entity, but as I said, with their limited capacity, this did seem inevitable. The most affordable 32GB kit KingBank offers in Australia is $600, but unfortunately it's out of stock, making the cheapest in-stock kit $650, which is still cheaper than most other brands who are at or above $700, so a $50 Australian saving. It's not that much cheaper. And I should note that all of these more affordable kits do use CXMT memory. Now, the question of whether or not you should buy DDR5 memory using CXMT chips is at least something we can now answer, and the answer is yes. The KingBank memory modules also appear to be reasonably well made. Under load for an hour using Prime 95, the modules peaked at 60 degrees, and this is when just using the airflow within the case. Installed in the same system, the G-Skill memory peaked at 55 degrees, so certainly cooler, but not a massive difference given the cost. And I should note that I am relying on the onboard sensors for these temperatures, and therefore it's impossible to say how accurate they are without installing K-type thermocouples, which isn't really possible with this memory. So keeping all of that in mind, given the current pricing of DDR5 memory, I'd recommend everyone installs an application like Hardware Info that allows you to monitor your memory module's operating temperature. And I'd also recommend keeping the temperature at or below 60 degrees if possible, and this might require direct airflow over the memory modules. That said, I am aware that JEDEC specifications state operational stability at temperatures ranging up to 95 degrees, and of course 60 degrees is well within that range. But I've found through personal experience that you can run into stability issues with higher speed DDR5 memory when exceeding 70 degrees. The good news being that there are lots of relatively inexpensive options for directing airflow over your memory modules, and I found with a cheap dual fan cooler from Amazon that I was able to reduce the peak operating temperature of the King Bank memory from 60 degrees down to just 41 degrees. And I really couldn't tell the difference in terms of operating volume, so that's a nice option for that added peace of mind. All of that said, this isn't normally something that I would worry too much about, but with DDR5 availability and pricing being what it is these days, a cheap cooler might be a good investment. Finally, it is a bit of a shame that memory modules using Chinese chips aren't more competitive on pricing, but again, given the capacity constraints, it wouldn't really make sense for them to be more aggressive on pricing, because if they were, their entire inventory would be depleted almost instantly, and that would result in instant price hikes without any financial win for the companies like CXMT, who do need to expand their supply in order to help mitigate these sort of issues in the future. Anyway, that is going to do it for this video. So do the like thing, subscribe for more content, and we also have the join button or Patreon if you want to get more Hardware Unboxed goodness. You'll get access to our exclusive Discord server for members only, monthly live streams for members, Q&A stuff, and behind the scenes content. So check that out if you're interested. If not, that's perfectly fine. And I would like to thank you for watching this video. I'm your host, Steve. See you again next time.